So feminism in the Hasidic community has a very negative connotation. They will view it as a woman who wants to overstep the religious boundaries that are set up between men and women. And I follow all those halachic religious boundaries.
Hello and welcome back to this channel. My name is Frida Weisel, and here I explore often topics related to Hasidic Judaism. Today, I'll be talking to the filmmaker of the remarkable documentary 93 Queen, the story of the founding of a women's EMS in Boro Park, Brooklyn. In the Hasidic community, the Hatzalah, the all-male emergency response team, is the prize and jewel of the community. And so, when women embarked on the mission to make their own emergency response organization, a strong internal debate exploded. What's remarkable about the documentary is it profiles several Hasidic women, and you see their lives up close in full color. You really get a sense of the energy behind the lead organizer, Raphy Fryer, who is now very well known as Judge Raphy Fryer or Rachel Fryer, the excitement of all the pioneering members, the tensions inside and outside of the group. I thought it wasn't simply a narrative of women breaking the glass ceiling, although it surely is that on a more superficial level, but a glimpse at the lives of women inside a traditional religious community. And the portrait is human and challenging. And so I'm delighted to talk to the director of the film today, Paula Eiselt. Paula is a primetime Emmy-nominated Peabody Award and DuPont-Columbia Award-winning director and producer. Her award-winning documentary features include 93 Queen, Aftershock, and most recently, Under God. Her upcoming film, We Met at Grossinger's, will premiere in late 2025. Welcome, Paula.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for doing this. I've been looking forward to talking to you. So I wrote this introduction based on my takeaway of the film. What would you say or add to that to describe the documentary?
So glad to be here and to talk about 93 Queen again. Like it's I haven't done an interview about the film in a few years, and it's like, you know, going back home to talk about it. So thank you for the opportunity. I really, really like how you describe the film, because there, of course, is the story of the formation of Ezra Noshim and everything that the women led by Raphy Fryer, everything, all the obstacles they had to overcome and everything they had to do to get this organization up and running and even formed initially, right? Like when I first started, we had no idea if it was going to take off. Like it was like we hoped, but as a filmmaker, I had no idea what was going to happen. But at the core of it, it is also, you know, a story about Hasidic women, and it's a story from within. And when I first met Raphy, and we can talk about that later, and all that, and all the women, it was really important for me to let them know that I wanted them to give them a platform to tell their own story on their own terms. From within. It wasn't coming from an outsider perspective, although yes, I'm not Hasidic, but I wanted it to be in their voice with all the complexity, humor, frustration, tension, all that comes with being in the Hasidic community and really in any community. So it was really important for me to give like an inside look into this community without coming from like an outsider look. So I really wanted to tell it from within. So I'm glad and heartened that you said that at its core, it's a story about these women in this religious community, because that's really, to me, the subtext of it is getting to know who Hasidic women really are. Orthodox and Hasidic women, obviously, you know, there's diversity there that I know, you know, we can talk about, but, you know, largely this umbrella of, you know, Orthodox Hasidic women. I wanted to show what that looked like on the inside.
Yeah. And it's really got a lot of shots inside a world that is often very camera shy. And I know this because I do a lot of content, and watching, I'm like, wow, they let you into a lot of very intimate spaces, a lot.
Yeah. And that was not easy. It was not a given. It was really a process of trust, of building relationships, of really, you know, letting them also know who I am, right? Like as a filmmaker, I came in saying, you know what, I'm asking you questions, you can ask me questions. So it was a very like transparent and honest exchange and building of a relationship. So, you know, that all took time and effort and just being open to the process to really get that kind of access.
So how about you share a little bit about who you are, since you mentioned that? Like, what's your background and where were you at with your career when you made this? So what did they know about you?
Yeah, so I am modern Orthodox. I grew up on Long Island in the Five Towns. Went to Jewish day school, but co-ed. So, you know, really, I would say, really like truly modern Orthodox. You know, but I then went, so I went to, you know, day school, but then I went to NYU Film School. So there was always one foot in both, you know, the religious and secular world, you know, but it's hard to really like define, you know, when I say modern Orthodox, like everyone also has a different definition of that. And so I'm always, you know, I don't know what Orthodox means to someone or modern Orthodox. So I'm always hesitant to like attribute that label to myself. I guess like, you know, as an adult in 2025, I would say I'm probably more like open Orthodox than modern Orthodox. I would say I'm a little more progressive than when I grew up, more open, but very much like my Jewish identity is everything. It's who I am. It's front and center. You know, it's I live and I breathe it. It's my household, my husband, my children, my lifestyle. I would say like my identity, my Jewishness is more integrated right now in terms of like cultural and religious, and like historical, and really understanding what it means to be a Jew, also outside like the religious practices. So I think like my identity, my definition of Jewishness, or I am now, has expanded. But back to when I was making 93 Queen, which is, you know, not that long ago, but I guess
which years?
It came out like 7 years ago. So that it is, and I started it. The very first shoot was like 2013. So when I think of it, I mean, that's a long time ago. It's a really long time, and the world is in a vastly different place. So when I, you know, started making 93 Queen, you know, Raphy and her family and everyone in the film, like was very clear that I was modern Orthodox. It wasn't like I was, you know, trying to say anything else. And, you know, but I was coming at it from a place of like, I understand you. Like we know I'm not Hasidic, but my uncle is, he lives in Boro Park. I'm very exposed to Hasidic, culture through my uncle and the modern Orthodoxy I grew up with, and like the schools I went to definitely were more like yeshivish, right? So like I understand all, like a lot of it. And, it wasn't foreign to me. Like I grew up like going shopping in Boro Park for like Shabbos clothing. Like that's like where I would go on like a Sunday. So it wasn't like this like other world to me. And I, you know, expressed that I understood, and I, you know Hasidim well, and the culture. And Raphy and I, before we like made it official, right? Because it obviously took her a lot of time to think about this. As you know, like being on camera is already something that's not widely done or accepted. And then like being on camera for a secular audience, right? Because that is very clear, like this was not a film that was just going to be seen within the Jewish community. This was for wide American and international audiences. But it was a big, really huge step for Raphy and for everyone in the film to do that. But we went to a Rebbe together, a Rebbe that I knew through my family, through actually both my uncles. And we went to the Nicholsbury Rebbe, in Springfield, in Muncie. And we sat with him and he gave us a bracha that like he basically like approved it, that Raphy work on this with me. So it really was like, I did it in a way that it was like, I followed their lead. You know, I wanted to do it, adapt and just present it in a way that it would be heard and would make everyone comfortable. I wasn't coming in to say like, we have to do it my way. Although obviously like when I need things, like Rick and I are very honest, and I would say, no, I need to get the shot, but on like a larger scale and for the whole project, it was very much a collaboration, and it was very much of like, I want you to be comfortable. Tell me what I need to do. Let's figure this out so you feel safe to do this project.
That's very interesting. I have a couple of thoughts on that. One of them is, I feel like there's often a trend of filmmakers who are somewhere on the spectrum of orthodoxy, and not only filmmakers, content creators who are somewhere on the spectrum of orthodoxy, to not be clear about their limited representation, to be like, oh, I'm Orthodox and I'm a filmmaker. I make a film about my community. And this is not to criticize anyone per se, but to say, I really appreciate that you highlight these nuances of your own Jewishness, to which degree you feel you are connected to your subjects, because I think to the subject, your distinct place, your Jewishness is very important. And also to which degree you can say you created a film as an insider or not is very much dependent on which specific Orthodox world you come from. And I think that's often obscured in the promotion, which can be very perplexing. Like, who's the filmmaker really? Is this an inside production? Is it not? Like, for me, it's very valuable to hear you speak in these nuances, because I feel like it's how people from the community also think about these productions. Like, how familiar are you with this particular subgroup when you make a documentary of them? And I'm just speaking to the fact that you were highlighting your unique place, where you were then and where you are now, which I really appreciated. Another thing I'm thinking about is you're talking about going to the Nikolsburger Rebbe for a blessing, which is very interesting. In the documentary, a whole bunch of women pile into an event and decide they're going to do something similar. They're going to try to get approval from a rabbi. This is not the Nikolsburger Rebbe visit, right?
No.
Just to be clear. Okay. So they go drive somewhere, what seems to me to be upstate New York, and they try to get what I would describe as a political maneuvering. They feel like if a rabbi says you can go ahead with it, then that will be a formal endorsement that will help them in their campaign to win over the community, because people in the community are reluctant to allow women or to endorse women or to use women as EMS responders, right? So because it's something that hasn't been done before, and because some claim women aren't strong enough, and so on, right? So they try to court this rabbi's approval. I found that scene very funny, because they're all putting on additional scarves, and they're like, one of them doesn't know that it says this is the men's side, and suddenly they're not sure if they can be on that side. It is not clear where they are or who the rabbi is. I'm guessing that's intentional.
Yes. Yes. I don't know if still now, I would have to ask, but at the time, it was intentional to not say who it was and where it was.
I see. Okay.
Exactly where it was. But I of course, I love that you pick up on that, because obviously this, you get all the nuances, but people watching it like have no idea that there's that a scarf over a wig over that these are all different customs and nuances depending on like which part of the Hasidic community you're in, and the differences between going upstate and then from Boro Park to Williamsburg to Crown Heights. Like, these are all like vastly different communities. Maybe not vastly, maybe like Crown Heights to Williamsburg is probably pretty vast, but like, they're real differences that the nuances that really only a true insider like really understands that.
Yeah. It's really interesting. In the end, they didn't get approval. Were they going expecting that it might actually happen? Was it just a shot in the dark? To me, it was like, in a way, they must have all said to themselves, this is going to be a lot of fun. We'll let our husbands and daughters babysit and we're going to have a night out and whatever happens. Like, how seriously did they think that they're going to be taken?
They did. They did. It was a huge disappointment. Because you have to know, like, Raphy is incredible. And when she wants to get something done, she gets it done. So she doesn't go for fun. She's way too busy to do that. And she's going because she feels like this was a real opportunity. And so it was a huge disappointment. They did, they were going thinking, this Rebbe, because of other things that he's approved and said and what he's approved in his own community, that he would be someone that would, go on record to support them. So it was a letdown.
I see. Okay, so let's talk about Raphy. What do you want to say to introduce people to Raphy, who comes across as a bundle of energy in the documentary?
I think Raphy is the definition of a trailblazer, right? And she's going to create paths where there weren't paths, and she's literally going to blaze through them, no matter what. So, and kind of the funny, ironic, just like, funny thing is, like, she physically is so tiny. So people always comment on that. Cause I think it's because she has so much power and she's so strong and so determined. And just physically tiny. So it just, people get a kick out of it. But I think she's always, turning expectations on their head, like literally, like in that sense, physically and just in terms of like what she's capable of, right? Like, she's also a mother of 6 and she's a grandmother now. And as we know, in addition to starting Ezra Noshim, she became, the first Hasidic woman to be a judge. And before all that, like, she went to law school and that was a huge challenge and an effort for her to do that. And she had the full support of her family. So, I think she's obviously a trailblazer, a go-getter. She really, really cares about, her community and making change in a way that can be heard. So she's very, she stays with her values. She's unwavering. She doesn't compromise her beliefs and values. Like, where she stands in terms of, her truths and her values, and she won't waver from them. Yet at the same time, she also knows how to compromise. So she's really good at that. Being true to who she is, but making sure she's, expressing herself and delivering in the message in a way that it can be heard, even when she has to compromise.
How did you get to know her? How did you get involved with us?
Yeah, so I was not necessarily looking to make a film about Hasidic women. Even that wasn't. I was doing something else. I was actually making a film about my uncle. So I was within the Hasidic community, but it wasn't like I was looking for that. And I was reading, I think it was Vos is Nice, that online news site years and years ago. And I saw this article about this group of women who wanted to join Hatzalah, and Hatzalah, the emergency care in the Orthodox community. They did not allow women, and they were not allowing these women to join, and the women were not taking no for an answer. This woman, Raphy Fryer, was going to start her own organization called Ezra Noshim. So reading that, I really stopped in my tracks on a few levels. The first was like, I know Hatzalah. I grew up with Hatzalah, and Hatzalah is great. And I never thought anything otherwise. And they are amazing and great, but I just didn't realize that women weren't allowed to be EMTs and that women were excluded from the organization. It never occurred to me. So I was also like really disappointed in myself that like, why hadn't I even noticed it? It was so normal that I didn't even notice that I've never seen a woman on a Hatzalah ambulance. So I think that was like the first like, oh, interesting. Okay. And then the fact that there were women who wanted to join, were being rejected, and were not taking no for an answer. And these weren't modern Orthodox women from my community, from, or from, I would say, more thought as more, open Orthodox communities. This was from Boro Park. This was a Hasidic woman who was not taking no for an answer. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. So, at the time, like, on the actual news story, there like Raphy's phone number was there. It was like, call Raphy, for more information. Like, it seems insane that, now in 2025 that would be, but, so I literally decided like, I'm going to pick up the phone and call her. And then that started the whole process. And I met her and started everything.
Very interesting. She was willing for you to film her. I mean, how much did you actually step into her life to get footage of them making Havdalah, preparing for Shabbos, stuffing envelopes?
All the time. Like so from beginning to end, it was a 5-year process of making this film. And I filmed all the time. I would say 80% of it or more, I filmed myself. So I would come with my camera, and then I had crew and it got bigger, but really for like the most intimate scenes, for being in her house, like I was like a 1-woman crew. I came with everything, and wow. I spent so much time there. So I was living in Queens at the time. I would like just be running out, 10 o'clock at night, filming, with Raphy, coming back at whatever time in the morning. And I was constantly there, and we were constantly in contact. So I also like was really bold and not shy, and would say like, can I come do this? Can I come do that? And I drove them crazy. But they accepted me, and it wasn't, I became part of the family in a way. It was just always there.
Wow. Very interesting. One thing on the subject of Raphy as a woman who has been in the news as doing extremely unconventional things for a Hasidic woman, from becoming a lawyer, from a Hasidic woman from this background. She often talks about not being a feminist. She says it defensively, which I found interesting. Yeah. And towards the end, she kind of bows down and says, well, feminists before me were helpful, something like that.
Yeah. Right at the end, she kind of gives them credit and pays homage to the people who came before her that made everything possible for her to do, what she's doing, including the civil rights movement. Like so many social justice movements that, created the environment for her to succeed. I think like so much in the Orthodox world, especially in the Hasidic world, it's the label and it's the wording of it that, it's what someone might misconstrue a feminist to be. And that she didn't want to own that label, because it also means, probably, it does mean that, you support maybe a level of, autonomy that women should have. And maybe, that's not for her, or that's not what she's advocating for. Because what Raphy is really good at doing is really focusing on the specific goal that she has. She's very narrow in that. Like that's her focus. And it wasn't like Ezra Noshim was going to be, revolution within the Hasidic community. It was really for emergency medical care and dignified medical care for women. So she has said this, feels like if she's going to expand it, then she'll lose people. So that could be debated. Like, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think I do. And I've, But that's okay, right? Like I'm far more expensive than that. And I would have loved Ezra Noshim to push way further. And I probably told her that, but, I think part of what's really important with this film and for me as a filmmaker is to show like, this is what feminism looks like in the Hasidic community. Like this is where they're at. So just because they're not going to say they're feminists, like that doesn't mean that their actions aren't feminist. It doesn't mean that it's not progressive in some way. They're just not going to use that secular label. But like this is the core of feminism, and this is where that community is. So women are all over the world are at different places, right? Like there can be a woman in a community where saying that she's not going to make dinner one night is like hugely feminist, right? And that's a huge deal, maybe where she is. So it's meeting people where they're at. So I think, again, that's part of like Raphy's way of messaging things and making sure it's going to be heard in the right way. And if she says feminist, she'll lose a lot of people. Whether or not how feminist she is according to like a feminist definition, I think she is more, but that's for her to talk about.
Yeah. On the subject of her, let's call it pragmatic advocacy, she's very focused. She wants to organize this women's emergency response team, and she's extremely pragmatic. One of the decisions she makes that speaks to that kind of pragmatism, where she's not looking to dismantle everything, she's looking to be effective, is she decides that unmarried women are not allowed on her force. And it seems to be like a political decision, not as much because she doesn't want them, but because she feels that it would cause the community to be more hostile to her cause. That was my reading. I might be wrong. And then what follows is shown in the documentary, where there was a lot of internal pain with different members who struggle with this. You want to speak to that and the decision to include that and how you felt about it?
That's exactly right. And I think it was a political decision at the time because they reversed it, right? So after the film was made, that decision was reversed, and there are a lot of, women that are a part of Ezra Noshim today. So it was a lesson that was learned, and I applaud them for taking the criticism and actually reversing it. But at the time of the filming, it was extremely painful, and it was really important to show that because that's like the growing pains of the organization, of any type of movement. There's going to be discord within. How they deal with that is part of the process. So I think it's very important to show that it's not this, and progress is not this like smooth, line of like everything is great. It's really up and down. It's really bumpy, and it's figuring out what battles to wage and what not to. And I think they knew they made the wrong call with that and reversed it. But it does show these compromises that have to happen in movements of progress in order to, as you said, be effective. But, there's always going to be something that I think in any movement that is not going to go far enough and is not good enough, right? Because they did reverse the ban on single women, but I'm sure there are other things that maybe other people disagree with what they do, and they may not reverse that. So like, there's always going to be a line that I think someone disagrees with, but that was, I guess, it was so egregious because it was so exclusionary to women. It was so not in the spirit of everything they were saying. It was like hypocrisy in a way that it needed to, that nobody was going to stand for that. So that's why it was really important to show the discord, show the pushback, and as a filmmaker, like show that perspective that like, there were people who did not think that was okay, and to show all those perspectives.
I didn't know that it was reversed. I haven't been filled in on what's happened with Ezra Noshim much since the film, But there was a woman who really touched me, who said it was her idea to do this emergency response in the first place. Seems to be a really gentle soul who joined the community and seemed to not be aware of some of the complex nuances in the community, that she was like learning a very steep learning curve by being in this trailblazing project. Do you know if she ended up rejoining? Can you speak to that?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
No, I'm saying I don't, she didn't, as far as I know, I think. And that was the most, I think, really, really painful, for the organization to film, for Yocheved. It was, that to me is like the tragedy of it, that Yocheved felt like there wasn't a place for her, and she really did fight for it. And obviously you can't help but think, she's the newcomer, and how much into the community, as you said, and how much did that have to do with her being pushed out in that way? Although there were other members there, as any organization, there's always discord, and there were members who left over other things, who were, more threat in the Hasidic community. So I don't know if that was a reason, but I think it kind of just makes it more painful because she came in. So, it was hurtful for Raphy too. She talks, it was kind of.
Yeah. It was very painful for me to watch. Like, I felt a very warm spot to this woman. And it's not that I thought she was pushed out because of it, but I thought maybe people who join the community can bring a degree of idealism that can almost be detrimental, where it's like someone who is like a little bit more jaded will be like, yeah, we're doing stuff that is a little unsavory, but we're trying to get to the bottom line. That was my take. I mean, I might have been projecting. Yeah.
I think, but you're right. I think that's also a huge part of it. If you, I think for people who come into all sorts of communities, Jewish and otherwise, like, as you said, you come in with a sense of like idealism, and this is going to be amazing. And you're looking at it, from the outside, and it looks great. And then you come in and you're seeing the reality, like the humanity, the ugliness, that's there. And I think that is definitely hard for anyone going into a new space, especially a super religious space, to come to terms with like that choice that maybe it's not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, this is a problem in general with Baal Tshuvas. And now that I run a YouTube channel, I often get contacted by people who are like, I want to join this community. And I wish I could tell them, it's important to understand that everyone is human in all worlds. And it's painful when like you said, when you join something, oftentimes from the outside, it can look so perfect. And then on the inside, when you find the reality, it can be a very painful, like, wake-up call.
Yeah. Problems that you have before internally are not going to be solved. Going to solve it. You're going to still have them.
I want to actually play my favorite clip. I was looking at the documentary. It's hard to pick a favorite clip. There's a lot of really, really excellent scenes. But my favorite that stood out when I was just going through it, preparing for the interview, is actually not with Raphy. It's a different woman that I really loved. And can you tell me her name? She's with Raphy a lot. They're together on radio shows.
Yitzi.
Okay, great. Sorry. So I'm going to play a clip that I'm hoping we can watch together, and then you share maybe your thoughts on it.
Come, oopsie. Come. Come. Yeah, I need tiny baby. This isn't a tiny baby. Come. Yeah, okay. There are definitely some people that are stuck on the idea that women belong at home, or they're weak, they can't handle it, leave them at home with the children, let them bake some cakes, Hi, this is Yeti Mendel. I'm calling about EMT classes. One of the ladies in your group wants to change the class from Wednesday to Thursday. Is that okay with you? I have no problem saying that women can do anything. There is nothing a man can do that a woman can do better. I originally wanted to be a doctor, but it was never the right time to do it. I was 20 right before I got married. We're a small family right now. 4 children, 3 boys, 1 girl. And I have a wedding tonight, getting my wig done. So let's go. What's doing? This is me here. A married woman covers her hair. And for me, the nicest way to cover it is with a wig that looks really pretty and like hair. Some of my hair is turning white. Did I tell you so I have some white hair? It's pathetic. Okay, so most of the people that come here shave their hair?
Yeah, pretty much I would say 98%.
Why do we shave our hair?
Somehow there's something, what is hair called? Hair from a woman has a name. It's like
considered a body part that should be covered, right? Is that the reason why? Look at us, such uneducated women. We don't even know why we cut it. We're such idiots. We just cut it because they tell us to cut it.
That's even better. That means we're
By the way, yeah, look how good we are. We just do it because we were told. We don't even question it. We just do it.
The Rebbe's are more on the women. Why? Because the women are more optimistic and like...
It's true.
Want to be good, no? Women more than men.
It's such a Hasidic women thing to say, what's doing?
Yeah.
What's doing? What do you think looking back at this clip?
You know, when I watch it again, it's like, wow, like just like the intimacy of it. I haven't watched in a while, and I love all how self-aware they are, the complexity of what they're saying, the realness, the honesty, and like the matter of factness of it. They're not idiots, you know, and they're saying, look at us, such idiots, but they're saying that like there's such an awareness in a way that I think is shocking, right? When you hear that, like that they're breaking this dissonance that you think that they have, but no, like they're saying it. And they're okay. Like they're okay with that. Like it's not bothering them, even though they're saying the words, that they're not even sure why they're doing what they're doing. They're saying it, but it's not like, I think a lot of people would be like, how can you do that? Or why are you just blindly following something? Isn't that oppressive? And maybe it is, but like, they don't think it is. So, it's really fascinating and real. And I also see joy there, like, especially you could see with like her kids and her son. It's like, I just see that she's joyful and she means business at the same time. You know, there's just like, you know, as you said, like, you know, how you doing? Like, it's just like, let's go, you know, like, this is what we're doing today. This is our life. And that's it. You just keep going. So I think there's just like the moment of rawness, of honesty, of breaking the dissonance, but having this cognitive at the same time, they're breaking it. Like, it's so loaded. So I really, it's a powerful scene.
Yeah, it's a very powerful scene to me. I've shared the scene online and people are very critical of it, but I actually think, to me, it reflects such vibrant, full lifedness, because in the end of the day, we all go through life doing things that we don't know why we're doing. Doctors tell us to do things and we'll take the instructions. And then if someone starts to quiz us, we'll probably find ourselves being like, wait, I don't fully understand what I'm doing. I'm just doing it because I have a degree of trust. And I think to be able to admit that and have a degree of self-deprecation and a sense of humor about it, I mean, it speaks to the opposite of someone being forced by a rabbi, like, go do this and doing it like a little minion. It speaks to just real life, right?
It just is what it is. And I'm curious, like, what the criticism were. And I'm sure I know them, because when I filmed it, I think, like, as it was happening, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're saying this. And And I probably at the time was more critical too. I definitely was of like, they're blindly following this, they don't know what they're doing. And just like, so maybe looking at it now, I didn't feel any of that critique at all. I felt like what I said before and what you said, I just felt like it's real life. They know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't care. So like, they're fine. They're safe. Like, should I care if they don't care? And I mean, that's such a much larger, a big discussion that I'm sure you talk about all the time. But I'm curious, like what feedback you've gotten from that scene.
Well, I think there are many people who operate under the assumption that everything they do, they understand, and they do it because they understand it and they are fully knowledgeable in it. Especially Orthodox Jewish women from different subgroups take great umbrage at the insinuation or at the experience of other Orthodox women doing things without being able to have a religious discourse around what they're doing, to be able to explain. Like, to a lot of Jewish women, the experience of seeing women say, oh, we have no idea why we're doing, we're just doing it, is like, it's heretical. It's like, how could you not know why you're doing things you're doing? It makes you sound so ignorant. But I totally disagree. I think they, like everyone else, pick and choose what they care to know about, you know? So I don't think the criticism is valid, because I think we all have to make decisions not to know everything. But I got so many comments from Jews and non-Jews alike, from people who are like absolutely indignant that these women do something like covering their heads without being able to give a convincing explanation for why they do it.
That's interesting. And I hear that, but I think for me, it's also, that is their personal truth, right? It's not like the film is saying that anyone who covers their hair doesn't know why they're doing it and they're oppressed by it. It'd be one thing if they were miserable doing it and they said, we don't know why we're doing it and we're miserable. They're like happy. They're talking about their gray hair. Like they're fine. So on a personal level, it doesn't bother me. I can see how other people can think like, oh, like, is now everyone going to think that every woman who's covering their hair has no idea why she's doing it? Are they going to take that as like the representation of it? I see. I get that criticism in that way, but that's not, I don't think that's true to that scene, because they're so joyful and because they're so playful. If it was a more serious tone, I would, as a filmmaker who I talk a lot about Jewish representation on screen and stereotyping and the lack of it. And part of, a huge reason why I wanted to make 93 Queen was to show an authentic view of Orthodox women. Like that was part of my, passion for it was to show like, this is who these women are. These are real human breathing women. They're not just like someone you see pushing a stroller, in Boro Park, wherever. Like, so authentic representation is really important to me. And that doesn't mean making someone look perfect also. I think that's what people get tripped up on. Like you can show people who are complex and flawed and that's human. So I think that was a very human and self-reflexive moment, and it was playful. It was funny.
Yeah. Personally, if I am reading or watching about a different culture and I feel like everyone has been made to look perfect and superhuman, I turn it off in a minute. I'm not like convinced. I think what we need is not some kind of sugar-coated stuff, but very careful, very aware, storytelling. That's the work of the editing, of the storyteller, of the producer, of the director, to make calls that, like you said, two scenes that might be very similar, but if in one of them they're playful and in another they're not, that might lead to different editing calls.
Right. Exactly. And I think, as you said, we don't want something sugar-coated and we don't want something demonizing. so part of, why Raphy agreed to this and Yitzi and all the women was to show the humanity of the community with all of its complexity. It's not glorifying it. It's not showing like this is like, maybe as we were saying before, like Balchubas come in and they think it's going to be this magical like utopia. It's not that. And it's also not hell, right? It's not like, as a whole, it's not this horrible place. So I think like, the authenticity is about showing like the reality and all the gray that's there.
How do you think Hasidic men come off in this documentary?
I think I tried to show a spectrum of Hasidic men. I think like Hatzalah, obviously it's critical of Hatzalah because they were doing something that they are excluding women, and they're doing something that that they need to be held accountable for. So the intention wasn't to, but again, the intention was to critique, not to demonize, because they do a lot of amazing things and we need them and we're grateful for them. And everyone is, right? Hatzalah helps all people, not just Jewish people, not just religious people, like anyone who calls, they come. They are overall a life-saving great organization, but that doesn't mean that they should be immune to critique and to improving and to exposing, things that aren't right in that organization. So I think it's critical of Hatzalah. And I think, Raphy's family, though, Raphy's husband is like, to me, like such a supportive, warm, sweet man. And I feel that comes across, and I've, gotten great feedback about
it does come across
his husband. So I hope it again shows that that Hasidic men are anyone else. They're human. There's problematic men, and there's men that are like Raphy's husband. Overall, it is a patriarchal society. Do I agree with that? Do I agree with the strict segregation of men and women? Sort of modesty, customs and requirements, like all of that created the need for Ezra Noshim because of the strict segregation. It created a need for women only care because there's only men, so it kind of imploded on itself. I'm critical of the system for sure, and that Hasidic men obviously uphold. So I don't want to say that I don't want to not hold them accountable, right, in that way. But as individuals, I think the men are like anyone else.
Yeah, I get that. It's not very centered on men. That's why the thought to ask the question suddenly came to me. Before we wrap up, do you have a favorite scene we can watch together?
It's hard to have a favorite, but I do love when that first call comes in with Raphy and she's, dressed in her like Shabbos clothing and whatever. And that was all authentic. Like that was not staged. That really.
You were just hanging out there?
I was literally just hanging out there. That happened. That was like, that was documentary magic. That's what, like, you wish to happen. And this call came in and we went, so that was amazing to film. I love when Raphy wins. And everyone inside of the house is just so happy and so joyful. And it's women, it's men. And it's just like a really proud moment for her and the community. So I think those are ones that stand out. And I do love the Shazel scene too.
For their first call, they finally get the first call. I'm just going to set it up. They started officially to launch their organization. There was some pushback. It's controversial in the community. And so they open shop, so to speak, and they don't get any calls, and they keep waiting, and they do tests, but there are no real calls until finally they get their first real call. So I'm going to play that here. What happened afterwards?
Just be advised, it is only a training session.
If the world would have been perfect, we could have had like all this practice drills like before. This must be a practice.
29B, 10th floor.
I think our women are so good. I really think they are. This is incredible.
Proceed. This is not a test. This is not a test. Responding unit, this is ES dispatch. The caller, I was not able to get through.
Oh, that was 53rd Street. Shucks. I'm at the scene.
You see another car here?
So we only see the driving over. Do you remember what happened?
The actual case, that particular case, I don't remember exactly. It may have been a pregnant woman. But it's HIPAA, right? So it's not like
You were able to show anything?
no, or that I can share details. So at the end, though, you hear testimony from women who were helped, and how thankful they are that women came.
I see.
But it was just the fact that it worked, right? Like
Yeah.
the car came and they all went into action. The fly car, worked, and now they just got a second ambulance. So no more like fly car, where like it used to be like the fire department would be the ambulance, and now they have their own. So they're really, they're an established organization, and they're also they have paramedic licensure, not just like EMT. Like paramedic is a next step up. So they're really providing top-notch care, and they have their own system. So it's incredible because considering the pushback and everything that we know, they're doing it. It's real, and they're expanding.
Wow. I did see a billboard for them, I think, on a bus stop, and I was wondering
Oh,
what
really?
happened. Yeah. I see. So it's been growing. And have you been in touch with them?
I'm in touch every now and then. I just heard from Leah recently. Leah now, Raphy's daughter, who was like in 9th grade when I was stuffing the envelope. I think she has 3 kids, and
Wow.
and she runs the organization with Raphy. So she's like the daughter who is following in her mom's footsteps.
Wow. Incredible. Anything finally you think I should have brought up or that you'd like to speak to before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think I'm just really happy to be talking about, the power of Jewish women and authentic representation, at a time like this.
Yeah.
Where it's really rare to be able to just dive into this fully is a gift. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Before I leave you, I'm very intrigued by your upcoming We Met at Grossinger's. Is that another Jewish talk?
It is. It's about the famous Hotel Grossinger's. That was like the creme de la
The Catskills.
Catskills, and the movie Dirty Dancing was based on it. So it's really about the Jewish immigrant experience through the lens of Grossinger's and another trailblazing woman, Jenny Grossinger, and how that hotel and the Catskills really changed American comedy and entertainment. It was all born in the Catskills. So it's a lot of Jewish history, Jewish joy, and that's going to premiere later this year. I can't announce it yet, but soon I'll be able to, and really excited for people to see it.
Oh, wow. I'd love to be in touch. I've done content on the Catskills. I'd love to hear about it and watch it. So please keep us
Thank you.
in the loop.
I will definitely let you know.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Paula, for everything. I'm going to link to the documentary. Do you have a website?
I do.
Okay, I'll link to your website as well. Thank you so much for sharing and for the lovely documentary. And to the viewers and the listeners, thank you as well. Bye-bye.